But let me tell you, today, the Hustler Fund has left 72 billion Kenya shillings, which is roughly almost $600 million. We have actively 2 million people borrowing from that platform. It has not collapsed the way Bill Gates told me it was going to happen. If I had listened to Bill Gates, we wouldn't have the funds today in Kenya. Example number one. Example number two. This morning, I had an occasion with my brother, President Mahama, convened by UN Habitat on affordable housing, a challenge we have had in Kenya for many years. And I invited the Prime Minister of Singapore to come to Kenya in 2023. And I had this conversation with him. And the housing challenge in Kenya and most African countries today was the same housing challenge Singapore had in 1963. Singapore, for those of you who know, was just a slum, like our slum in Kibra, or slums everywhere in our continent. But today, Singapore, 95% of their citizens are homeowners, and they are in the first world. In our continent, including in Kenya, 7 million people are living in slums. Yet we were the same 60 years ago. Difference? Leadership. Yes. So, what am I saying? It was what inspired us to do what we are doing in Kenya today. I was showcasing what we are doing. We are building, at the moment, 170,000 housing units. We are building 400 markets. We are building hostels for 170,000 university and college students, all on locally mobilized resources in Kenya. We have not borrowed a single shilling. We have not borrowed a single shilling. And do you know how many contracts we have signed? How much? The worth of contracts we have signed in the last 2 years is $4 billion. The CEO of Shelter, who operates from Nairobi, is right there. He knows what I'm saying. In fact, when I mentioned this in one of the interviews I was in Ethiopia, people say, $4 billion, is that really possible without borrowing? Because we have refused to mobilize domestic resources because we are accustomed to borrowing money from the people who we complain they are lending to us at very high rates. What were they supposed to do? And I'm saying this because we are all Africans here and we must tell each other the truth. Yes. It is possible to mobilize resources. And I want to encourage my brothers who are here. My brother, the CEO of African Development Bank, AFC, and all the other institutions, that when we talk about these African institutions who are built by others, the way we are building ours. So even as we seek to reform World Bank and IMF and all those other institutions, we must also begin by building our own institution, by believing in ourselves and putting our resources in those institutions. So, I am very proud of what President Mahama is doing. Mobilizing the continent so that we can seize the opportunity that exists in our continent. About credit rating agencies, I have had friends here who have said, oh, you know, we must be talking to them often. We don't have to wait. It is good. We don't have to talk to them. We need to talk to them often. We need to make data available often. But there is no problem with us having an African credit rating agency. at the very minimum, it will become a reference point. And others will begin to know that we are developing the skills for running a credit rating agency, and we can correct some of the anomalies they constantly level against our countries. If not for anything else, ladies and gentlemen, we must develop our own institutions. It is not so that we can substitute those which exist, but it is because it is necessary for us to have homegrown solutions, institutions that understand our terrain, understand our customs, understand how we do stuff, and work with us from a position of knowledge. And therefore, I want to persuade us in this room. I know I wasn't lucky to listen to the statement of President Mahama asking to send me on WhatsApp, because I want to read it. Because he is pushing a very important project for us as a country. And therefore, the African financial leaders who are here. Is the CEO of KCB from Kenya here? I wish he was here. You know, we managed to solve one problem in Kenya. We had a big problem with fuel. When I came into office, the first lot of people to see me were oil marketers. They had run out of dollars, there was confusion in the market, there was an imminent stock out of fuel in Kenya, and we had to design an innovative way of how to get out of it. And we found a way on how to get out of it. But, so we had the standards and the standards and all these other huge banks. Kenya institution stepped in and sorted out the problem for us. That is the value of having homegrown institutions. And I was persuaded from that moment that the government of Kenya is going to be buying more shares in our own institutions. I have put more money in buying shares in Afrexim Bank. I have put more money in buying shares in Trade and Development Bank, because those institutions will come in handy when we need them. They will be there when it is shining. Are we together, good people? Now, I am talking to you as an African leader, and we must call a spade so that we can move to the next level. I want to encourage our, and for your information, Kenya Commercial Bank, just by starting, they made the most money that year because they took a risk on us. All those other people who are approaching, I don't want to mention names, one of the banks with the headquarters somewhere in South Africa. And they had a lot of contempt, you know, about we don't think that's possible. We don't think that. But a year later, they were in my office. Oh, you see, now we want to participate, you know, because now KCB is making a lot of money, they want a piece of the pie. Really? Of course you know what I did. I told them that's the dope. I mean, really. So we should, I just want to encourage us that we can do stuff. We can do stuff if we are focused, if we believe in ourselves, and if we work together. Yeah? And that's what we're trying to do. using convening power of the African Union to bring all our financial institutions together, and so that we can think about the future of our continent together, even as we work with the rest of the global community to sort out our issues. Thank you very much, and I apologize if I have said anything that offends anyone.